Good morning, Rabbi. Love
Good
that
morning,
shirt.
Joe.
In part one of our discussion about whether or not the Last Supper was a Passover Seder, you mentioned that there was scientific and archaeological and chronological evidence that you could describe. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Certainly. In fact, that question really applies to all of Scripture. But let's start with the Passover Seder and the timing of the Seder and what was going on in Jerusalem at the time and the historic events. So one can certainly go to the record and can start compiling why it couldn't possibly have happened, or the time of the year is wrong based on the internal dating of Jesus's life. And then we can spend all of our time going back and forth over it is, it isn't, it was, it wasn't, it couldn't have been, it was. And if we get bogged down in the historic scientific evidence, we're going to miss entirely the importance of the Seder, the importance of the Last Supper. Sometimes it's a way of defocusing, because I would rather deal with some of these questions than deal with the spirituality. What is the lesson of the Seder? What was Jesus teaching by having the Last Supper being a Passover Seder? What was the teaching about? Not whether he used the right hand or the left hand, and let's find the Holy Grail. That's going to solve all of our problems. And then we get bogged down in searching for the Grail when we miss the cup, when we miss the meaning of sharing, when we miss the idea of freedom. And so I've mentioned before, and I want to mention again, the Torah, all of Scripture, both Old and New Testament, it's truth and it's not true. It's a hard thing to understand because we often equate truth with true. And here we have a vehicle for teaching us something and not getting bogged down in Noah's Ark. It was made out of wood. And where did the carnivores live? On deck C, while the omnivores were on the promenade deck? I mean, and was there a sedative given? We get bogged down with these questions, and then we lose sight of what's the truth. What's the truth with Adam and Eve? Well, where is the garden? And what kind of a tree was it? And we're going to miss the truth. And if we get into a polemic about the Passover Seder, we're going to miss the story of freedom.
So it doesn't really matter if you believe that the dinosaurs helped Jesus build the pyramids. It's more about what was being said and the lessons we're trying to take from the stories that are told in the Bible and Scripture.
It's like watching a play and then having a discussion about the scenery. You miss the play. Shakespeare is really a good example of having all kinds of conflicts of time. All of his plays involve events that either happened then, but didn't happen then, and happened here. And if we start debating that, we're going to miss the beauty of the language. We're going to miss the truth.
It's the spiritual meaning of it.
And too often, we'll find that we're at odds with each other, not over the spirituality, but over, did it happen? And did it happen at 8:06? No, it actually happened at 9:15. And no, then we're missing the entire lesson. We want to come to the Seder. We want to join with our fellows, with other people, as Jesus joined with the disciples. And he said, let's share. Let's share the food. Let's share the wine. And by this act of sharing, we're going to realize that we need to share with everyone. That if one person isn't free, Everyone's not free. And so we want to take a step back and let's look at all of our sacred teachings. And now we're going to look for the truth. And we're not going to negate the text because there's scientific, historic, or there's other evidence, because that's not what's important. What do I take away from Adam and Eve? We're all descended from the same people. We're all brothers and sisters. So this idea that there are different races, man invented that. Nationalities, obviously man invented that. We put borders in the middle of places, never mind on rivers and mountains. But the story of Adam and Eve, we're in this together. We all descended from the same. And what is it that Jesus taught? Turn the other cheek. Walk the extra mile. Someone asks for your shirt, you give them your cloak. That's what he was saying. I'm a model for your behavior. So there's lots of quotes you and I could put in and point to, but they're not about the ritual act. They're not about the accuracy. They're truth. And it's truths that we all can hold on to.
Well, let's hold on to that, Rabbi. It's why I value our friendship and your wisdom so much. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.